Okay, so now we're going to get down into the nitty-gritty of the report. And to help us do that, I'd like to invite our country director, Tony Koiskin, up on the stage. Tony, floor is yours.
Selamat siang, selamat datang semuanya. Welcome everybody. So, thanks to Tyler from Temasek for sharing with us and helping us understand just how much detail has gone into this report. And we are very, very excited about this report. It's so detailed, in fact, that I would encourage you all to go to our website, Think with Google, and access the entire report so that you can actually go and digest as much of that as you can. But today, I'd like to focus on what we have found out about Indonesia. So, Ty mentioned Google commissioned Temasek to look into what is happening in terms of the trends and the opportunities right across Southeast Asia. And we did this through a number of means and covering a number of areas. Firstly was Temasek's research across the VC and the startup community and looking at that landscape by country, and I'll get into that detail. And secondly, we looked at a lot of secondary data sources. We looked at information such as the World Bank, United Nations, Euromonitor, McKinsey, eMarketer, Economist Intelligence Unit, to name a few, as well as government websites. There were also, as Ty mentioned, 59 interviews, expert interviews conducted across all 6 countries, talking to startups, founders, VCs, industry experts and industry analysts to validate the data which came from the research. And then lastly, we supported this with Google Insights and data. We looked at search queries, we looked at internet use, we looked at internet usage and users, and we also looked at smartphone penetration. But we really commissioned this research to better understand what are the underlying trends and what is the size of this opportunity for Indonesia and what, if any, are the roadblocks that could possibly stall or prevent Indonesia from becoming the digital powerhouse of all of Southeast Asia. So when you think about it, you look at these regional findings we launched in May, we looked at 6 countries. The 6 countries were Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, and of course, Indonesia. And all of these countries are showing very exciting growth, huge potential, and a great deal of enthusiasm around addressing the web. And the opportunities for businesses in these regions is getting bigger and bigger every single day. Now there are 600 million people across this region. More than 260 million of them are online right now. And can you believe that every month 3.8 million people are coming online in the region every month? 3.8 million people. And the number of users across Southeast Asia, the number of internet users, will reach 480 million by the year 2020. 480 million. And that number of 3.8 million coming online every single month, that's almost the same as the entire population of the country I used to work in New Zealand. Think of it as 2 Bandungs coming online every single month. Those numbers are staggering, but we know they're exciting. And this is why I'm so excited to be here and to see how we and you are changing the way the internet is going to look and feel for everybody. And the internet is going to look and feel more Indonesian. So when we look at the opportunities for the internet economy across Southeast Asia by 2025, we believe the opportunity is to be as big as $200 billion. It's staggering, $200 billion, which is 6.5 times the size it is today. And e-commerce and travel will make up 90% of the total online spend in 2025. And venture capital firms are looking very closely at this region. And they're looking at Indonesia in particular. You might have seen on the front page of the Jakarta Post today. Yeah? Indonesia becoming the Silicon Valley of all of Asia. That's exciting. And we're on the tipping point of the frontier of the internet for this nation. So Southeast Asia has tremendous momentum. And the people in these 6 countries are shaping the internet of the future for Asia. I'd now like to look at Indonesia and look more deeply at the exciting predictions that we have right here. So we know that Indonesia is one of the fastest growing internet economies on the planet. Yeah, we know that last year we had 92 million internet users in this country. In May this year we announced we had 100 million internet users. Just here in Indonesia alone. That's more than most of the entire populations of the neighbouring countries of this region. And our research predicts the increase of 19% year on year in the number of internet users, getting us by 2020 to 215 million people. So in the next 5 years, more than another 100 million people coming online in this country alone. Those numbers are staggering. Those numbers are very, very exciting and very encouraging for the internet. Now, the kind of user growth that we have is going to have big implications for the way Indonesians will learn, the way they set up businesses, and the way they communicate. We're already seeing companies take advantage of this. Companies like Matahari Mall, Traveloka, and Gojek, to name a few, that are already establishing strong, sustainable, growing organisations that are creating unique and interesting and innovative ideas to make the most of the web. So now's the time to take advantage of the momentum. And Google is committed to playing a key part in the economic growth. And so are many of the venture capital firms that are looking for Indonesians to find that next great idea, that next startup. And we're in sync with the government's e-commerce roadmap to make sure that we can help it not just meet, but exceed its goal of 1,000 startups, 1,000 new startups by 2020. So we released some numbers recently to show smartphone usage and show the fact that it's smartphones that's driving the adoption of the internet here in Indonesia. And according to the 2015 Consumer Barometer report, we can see that smartphone adoption is already at 43%. And interestingly, there's only 15% computer ownership here in Indonesia. So it clearly shows that Indonesia is not just a mobile-first country, but Indonesia is becoming a mobile-only country. From a Google standpoint, we've been building our products from a mobile-first standpoint. And we're very excited to see that Indonesia is going to be the country that is really shaping the way around smartphones and how they will be used in the future. Now, consumers are aggressively adopting this smartphone phenomenon, and it's only going to continue, and that is what's going to drive the rapid growth of the internet economy here. So earlier, I showed you an estimate of the online market and what it's going to be in Southeast Asia by 2025. Does anyone remember that number? How can you forget it? $200 billion. 200 billion. What's exciting is here in Indonesia, we believe that a third of that 200 billion will come right here. $81 billion. $81 billion in the internet market right here, growing at 26% year on year. This is going to be a major contributor to economic growth right across the country. The online market will be even larger. The numbers we've used we feel are conservative. For the purposes of the research, we're only including e-commerce, online travel, ride sharing, and online media. Still, e-commerce is going to make up for more than half of all of the internet economy. 57% of all of the internet economy by 2025 will be e-commerce in Indonesia. So this growing population, more people accessing smartphones, and greater user experience in terms of trust, speed, payments and so forth is going to drive more and more people to use e-commerce and online shopping, which become more of the norm in our normal lives. And we're already rapidly experiencing how convenient, cost-effective and what a wide range of choices it's bringing us. So what's underpinning, obviously, the growth of e-commerce is going to be the number of online shoppers. Now, right now, in 2015, we said the number was 18 million. That's already a rapid adoption. 18 million people already buying online. But the growth we're expecting is staggering. We're expecting this growth to getting up to 119 million. So growing at 21%. And so the number of online shoppers will grow 5 times by 2025. 5x the number of online shoppers. So the e-commerce players have a massive opportunity here. Indonesia is expected to grow the share of Southeast Asian region from 31% to 52%, meaning that more than half of all e-commerce business in Southeast Asia will be taking place right here in Indonesia, securing Indonesia as the digital powerhouse of the Southeast Asia digital economy. The growth will be driven by a much larger middle-class economy, more young people coming online, more access to smartphones. And we know there's a rapidly growing population who are under 30. We have 2.5 million people coming into that bracket every year, fueling the desire for more and more online transactions. And traditional retailers are often unable to justify being able to cater and source for those rural and remote communities. But it's the internet that has enabled companies like Blibli, Matahari Mall and Elevenia to provide premium brands to people in rural and remote areas of Indonesia, giving them a fair choice, just as we have. Now, the online travel opportunity is equally as stunning. So for online hotels and airlines, we expect this to grow 26% to 32% in terms of our share of that market across Southeast Asia. So 1/3 of all online travel business will be taking place from Indonesia. Again, securing Indonesia as the major player in that space. And here in Indonesia, the middle class is growing rapidly, already assessed at about 90 million people, whose passion for travel is continually going to evolve, and so are their means to be able to afford it. And more importantly, the internet is making travel much more appealing and much more accessible, with companies like Traveloka, for example, who are enabling Indonesians and people all around the world to find better travel solutions faster. So we all know as well, and it's great to see Nadine make it here in time, because he got a Gojek, I'm sure. So we all know how challenging it can be getting around busy cities in Indonesia, in fact right throughout Asia. You know, if you have to make more than 1 or 2 stops on your journey, it's quite likely, in fact for me it's an imperative now, that you're going to have to get an ojek to get there. Now this was once a problem, and that's now been turned into an enormous business opportunity. And with that and the use of the internet and smartphones, businesses are creating these great opportunities all over the country. And just think about the lives of hundreds of thousands of drivers whose livelihoods and families' livelihoods have been improved by this whole new economy that's evolved through these innovations. And for the consumer, the benefit is clear. It's not just about you getting where you want, when you want, it's also you getting what you want, when you want, such as deliveries, food, and other items. Now this sector is super exciting. And right now it's already valued at about $800 million in terms of its volume in the economy. We assess that this will keep growing at 22% each year on year, to get to $5.6 billion by 2025. And that will be 43% of the Southeast Asia's online ride market. Again, securing Indonesia as the digital powerhouse in this space. Now, in terms of startups, you might be interested to know that there are now 7,000 startups across Southeast Asia. 7,000 startups, and where do you think the majority of these startups reside? Here in Indonesia. The truth is, the majority of these are here in Indonesia. Of the 7,000, 2,033 of these startups are from Indonesia. But Indonesia is already leading the way in Southeast Asia in this space. Singapore is the next in line with 1,850, followed by Vietnam with 1,410. And we believe that this will continue. When you think about characterising Indonesia, it's an emerging startup destination. There's an increasing number of centaurs. Now, a centaur is a startup that has managed to raise $100 million. And there might be a couple of unicorns. A unicorn is a business that's managed to raise $1 billion. In fact, if you can sniff around a little bit, or look around, you might not even need Pokemon Go to find that there might be some of these unicorns in the room. But the key takeaway here, you know, with the government is to continue and very determined to support this whole digital economy. And it's a great time to be a startup. With more than 2,000 startups in Indonesia already, There's more startups than any other country in the region, and this will continue. And we, in our business, want to continue to support this and ensure that the government reach their 1,000 startup by 2020 goal, and in fact exceed this by a wealthy margin. So in terms of the funding piece, and we saw that I made the comment before about becoming the Silicon Valley of Asia. Last year there was $1.1 billion worth of funding in Southeast Asia in startups, 1.1 billion across 355 deals that took place. Now, 88% of that entire deal volume took place across two countries, Indonesia and Singapore, who shared the wealth pretty much between them in terms of that investment. In Indonesia, there were 96 deals worth $188 million of funding here in Indonesia just last year. And the sectors came from e-commerce, lifestyle, consumer internet, professional services and media. And Temasek reports that 31 startups have received Series A funding or more here in Indonesia. And so investors are also excited about the opportunity to come and invest here in Indonesia and are clearly becoming more and more confident around the people and the ideas and the landscape here in Indonesia. And we are very confident this will continue and that we'll find many, many more unicorns around us. Now, as we see more and more consumers ingest and digest more and more media on their phones, just as many of you are now, and many people will watch this on the internet at some stage after today, we know that people are moving away from traditional consumption of media themselves. And so advertisers will also follow that trend. And as an advertiser, whether you're building a brand or whether you're trying to get a conversion, either way, you will be moving your advertising investment into digital channels. Ensure that you can connect with the consumer on their device, on their terms, wherever and whenever you want and they want. And so when you look at certain markets, for example in the US next year, 38.4% of all media dollars will be spent in digital, 38.4%. And Indonesia is following the same trend. And we certainly are seeing that number is going to happen 40% in 2025 as media goes from a current investment of $300 million into digital up to $2.7 billion, which is very, very exciting. And in reality, today, every business is an online business. Whether or not you sell on the net or not, you need to be found when consumers come looking. Just as an example, in the last 5 years, just the searches on Google for the term packet internet has increased 8 times. 8x for the volume of people looking for packet internet on Google. So there's huge opportunities to be there in that space. So what needs to happen now? We've been presenting all of the opportunities. We need to think, what are the criticalities? What has to be done to make sure that Indonesia reaches the potential that we've explained here? So firstly, we estimate that Indonesia will need around $15 to $20 billion of funding to hit the goal of $81 billion by 2025. And in terms of what needs to happen, this investment needs to continue. We're very optimistic, based on the recent rounds of funding that we've seen, that this will continue and that we will continue to grow confidence in the VC ecosystem that Indonesia is in fact a great place to come and invest. And I'll be looking forward to hearing from our panellists and their views around how they feel the VC landscape looks at Indonesia. So there are really 5 challenges beyond this that we see. Things that we need to overcome as a country to make sure that Indonesia really does become that digital powerhouse that we're dreaming of. Number 1 is talent and engineering. And we've seen this time and time again. Can we build enough talent in Indonesia around skill sets in digital across all realms? Building websites, building apps. Can I code? Do I understand digital marketing? All of these areas must be invested in much more aggressively, both by the private and the public sector. And we're continuing in our business to do this. But we need many, many more people to take part. Payment mechanisms. Payments in this country need to be seamless and easy and on users' terms. Yeah? Paying on their terms, not our terms. And how can we make that happen? We are seeing progress, but that needs to continue to become a seamless experience. So people have a love for online shopping. It's simple, no matter what you're buying, whether it's a ride or a trip or a new car stereo. The internet infrastructure. Now we know that speeds are low here, but they are improving. And we're encouraged by the government's efforts and the telco's efforts to continually invest in 4G networks and fibre networks to bring faster speeds to all of us. Moreover, logistics and infrastructure. If the government invests in this and roads and bridges continually to roll out over the country, this will also enable the internet economy to thrive and survive. As your deliveries come faster, fresher, colder, however you need them. And lastly and most importantly, we must commit to providing and investing in more consumer trust. A beautiful, seamless customer experience, regardless of what the online opportunity is and what the service or product is, that consumers are excited and delighted by their online experience and that they trust it and they want to come back again and again and again to experience that over. And we know that that's already started. And the great experience that we're already seeing across Gojek and Matahari Mall and Traveloka, to name a few, is already driving more consumer experience and more consumer trust with Indonesians. So in conclusion, I really hope that you're as excited about the future of the internet economy as I am, but not just about the future of the internet economy, the future of Indonesia. Now, there are millions of creative Indonesians right across the country just waiting for their opportunity to move up, to be identified, to become the next centaurs or the next unicorns. And at Google, we want to play a big part of this. We want to continue to invest in ensuring that we can help underpin and help as many Indonesians as possible realise their online dreams and aspirations so the business can continually prosper and the economy continues to thrive. So we're already seeing homegrown businesses take advantage of this. And from this presentation, you can already see how Indonesia is leading the region across every sector, across travel, e-commerce and rides. And we expect Indonesia to continue to excel in these areas, and I look forward to seeing the predictions that we've made today come to fruition. And also look forward to hearing what our esteemed guests have to say. Thank you very much.
We'll have you back up here for the Q&A session.